Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd. Today we're going to talk about Deep Space Nine, the third season premiere episode. But before that, I want to talk about some of the other Star Trek news that's going on. First of all, there is the Star Trek 4 movie in the Kelvin universe. This will be the last one of the Kelvin universe, and also a plan for a prequel movie, which would have a completely different cast and probably be between the time of Enterprise and any of the things that we've seen so far. I'm taking that with a grain of salt. There have been 3 different directors that have been assigned to Star Trek 4, and none of them have ever come about. Now, part of that had to do with the fact that Paramount and CBS were merging back together at that time, and they were still trying to figure out what they were doing on what was then CBS All Access. And so perhaps they have things in line by now, but the fact is that Paramount is being sold, possibly to Skydance, and that is going to mess things up as well. So there's no telling if either of those movies are going to be made, but they are planning them right now, and I don't know if they have a script. I don't know if they have informed the cast about it. Sometimes when these things happen, members of the cast say, well, it's a surprise to me. I just read it in the trades. So we'll see what happens on that. We'll follow that. What we know more concretely is what they're going to be doing for Paramount Plus. They are going to have the season planned for Lower Decks later this year, but then that is going to be the last season. So that is, I think, 5th season of Lower Decks, and that's going to be it for them. However, they have cleared Strange New Worlds for yet 2 more seasons. There's one that's already being recorded, and there's another one that'll follow that. And while they're not saying that's going to be a last season, it is likely to continue on after that. So Strange New Worlds, of course, has been probably the most successful of the new Trek series. Then, of course, we'll have something else coming your way, the Starfleet Academy series, which is in the planning stages already. They've got sets designed and things like this, which will be a tremendous set for Starfleet Academy. Now, this is an interesting thing because Starfleet Academy has been an idea ever since Star Trek the Motion Picture. They were going to, in Star Trek II, go back to the Academy, and they couldn't make that work. And the idea has bounced around for years and years and years, and has never come up to anything, and yet it seems like every time they go to make some kind of project, Starfleet Academy comes up. So they're actually going to do it this time. Also, we see that there is going to be, of course, in 2025 sometime, the TV movie of the Section 31 with Michelle Yeoh. So that's what we have that we know of. Now, there is some movement among people who are fans of the Lower Decks and the producers there as well, kind of hoping another network picks them up, kind of the way that happened with Star Trek Prodigy. So we'll see what happens there if Netflix is interested or one of the other streaming services is interested in picking up Lower Decks, because it's really one of the better shows out there. Unfortunately, and the reason that it's been canceled is that while it appeals very much to fans like us, it's not bringing in a wider audience. And really, that's what they need to do in order to continue to make these things profitable. It just, as the producers said there, if everybody would just have one more person come and tune in, that might help. But it's not happening. So the only one that seems to be able to pull a wider audience at this point is Strange New Worlds. So that's the one that's going to keep going. Now, you might say, though, that we've been better off Star Trek-wise than we ever have, because we've never had more than 1 or perhaps 2 series at a time. And in the last year or 2, we've had just 4 or 5 different Trek shows going one after the other. And the idea at one time, of course, was to have a constant Star Trek presence throughout the year. And apparently, the economics of streaming just doesn't allow that. In the way that commercial television could always sell commercials, streaming services don't sell commercials quite as well, and they're not getting the increased subscribers that they need in order to spend the kind of money that they want. Also, streaming budgets are way bigger than television budgets ever were, which is why the original Enterprise sets were made out of plywood, and the current ones are much more theatrical, much more cinematic. So that's what we know in Star Trek news right now, that Strange New Worlds will continue at least 2 more seasons from where we are now, and that Lower Decks has 1 more to go before we see the end of them. And then, of course, Starfleet Academy, probably late of 25, and probably around the same time, the Section 31 TV movie. Okay. Deep Space Nine. In the premiere of Season 3, there have been several months that have gone by since the encounter with the Jem'Hadar, and that we talked about last week. And so Cisco and Jake went back to Earth. Cisco was meeting with Starfleet Command and going over a lot of the situation between the Jem'Hadar and the Federation, and it was decided that when he returned to Deep Space Nine, he would take along with him a ship that he helped design, and it was the Defiant. We hear a lot about the Defiant. There were some weaknesses in it, but it was really meant to be a warship. It was meant to have the ability to repel a Borg attack. And while the Borg had receded since it was built, this idea with the Jem'Hadar seemed to be the ship that they needed for this. Now, it doesn't have any family quarters. It is a very much a military craft, and goes far away from the technology unleashed, which was the idea behind the Enterprise D, for instance. So what we have here is a small, very powerful, very heavily weaponed ship that does have some weaknesses. If you don't handle it right, it can blow itself apart because it's got too much engine for its size. It's got too many weapons for its size. Yet it is very useful in their first contact with the founders, according to Cisco's determination here. Now, he and Bashir and O'Brien and Dax and Odo and Quark all go through the wormhole and to the planet where Quark had sold Tula Berry wine before, in order to be able to get some kind of lead as where the founders could be found. They get split up. All kinds of things happen to everybody, to the point to where it makes it a very good cliffhanger of a season premiere 2-parter. We won't go any more into the plot than that. A lot of what we know now is something about Cisco himself. First of all, we know that he has some kind of engineering background, so he was able to be on the design team for this ship. We know that he had greater ambitions of being an admiral one day, for instance, although Curzon Dax had told him, or had at least thought at the time and was told by Jadzia more recently, that he never would have been happy in a desk job. He always wanted to be where the action was, and so perhaps his ambition to higher rank was a misguided one. And so we know this about Cisco, and we also know what he thinks about Deep Space Nine. In coming back from Earth, they're both referring to their place on the station as home. And he said, I can't believe that I'm thinking of this Cardassian monstrosity as being a home. And Jake points out that perhaps he knew about it before he even thought about it, because he'd brought a lot of his artwork, his African artwork, that from Earth to the station in order to post in his quarters. So we learn a little bit more about Cisco. We learn a little bit more about what drives him. We knew from the beginning that he wasn't terribly happy to have the posting at Deep Space Nine, which we never really understood why he was put there. It was not necessarily something that a climbing officer would like. They would rather have their own command of a ship, and for one reason or another, he was bypassed on that. Nobody ever explained why. But that is the situation he finds himself, where he finally does have a ship, although it's temporary at this point. And at the end of the episode, it looks like it's just about gone and everybody else is in grave danger. So just because of the fact that it is a continuing series, we know that everybody is going to be back. But another important point is that this is something that was not very heard of in series television. Now, there had been mini-series, Centennial, Shogun, various things like that, which had a limited number of episodes, and the story was told over the expanse of episodes. Now, every once in a while, there would be a two-parter, or there might be some very thin arc that went through a series, but Deep Space Nine was the first that I know of series that had a plot arc that went through an entire, actually several seasons beyond this. And that is the nature that television is fairly normal in now, with Discovery and Picard and Game of Thrones, for that matter. All of these shows were one story that went over several episodes. And so that's where we find ourselves, and we can say that that proof of concept was provided by Deep Space Nine. So, just my thoughts on this. I hope that you will let me know what your thoughts are by putting them below. And if you've not subscribed already, please do. And we'd love a like, if we will. Let's see. Today is Wednesday, so tomorrow we have, of course, the Bad Batch, and on Friday we have another Discovery episode. We're not very far now from the premiere of Doctor Who, which will be, I think, May 11th, so we will have reviews on that as soon as that drops. So, all of this happening, and we hope that you'll be part of it. And until then, don't go far.